progress.
I am currently the Senior Partner Growth Manager at RingLogix. I also have Gabriella here. She's our Senior Marketing Manager. She's helping us in the background. And I have Erick Bruce, one of our RingLogix system engineers. Erick, I'm going to let you introduce yourself too really quickly. I know I just did, but why don't you tell the team a little bit about or the group a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I've been in the industry for 26 years now. Went through several different companies, but I'm proud to be working for RingLogix now. And yeah, looking forward to helping you guys with whatever you need.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm just the MC of the show here, so most of you know who I am. If you don't, you'll get to know me a little bit today. So today we're going to be talking about advanced queues. So I'm going to forward here. Today's agenda, what we're going to talk about, why are queues important? And we're actually going to go beyond the ring all. So we're not going to focus at all today on ring all queues. Not that they're not important, but, you know, a simultaneous ring, it rings a group of callers, kind of is what it is. Today we're going to focus on round robin, linear hunting, how to stack queues, and why would we do that, right? And understanding some best practices around adding remote agents. So Erick's actually going to be the star of the show. He's going to be demonstrating these builds live on this webinar. So that's what we're going to go through today. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. We're going to try to answer them live as I see them pop up. That way we can get anything addressed that you may have. All right. So why are queues important? Like, why are we even doing a webinar on queues? Well, they're important to your customer because they can solve customers' problems, right? So when you're pitching a customer, and maybe they're talking about effectiveness of their system, using a call queue can actually decrease their customers' wait time and therefore improve issue resolution, right? So making sure the customer, when they call in, they're matched correctly to the right agent right from the start is so impactful. Call queues can also help your customers monitor call center statistics if they're in that type of environment, and make sure those calls are routed to less busy agents, right? If we have one go-getter agent that on a multi-simo ring that's just always answering the phone first, they might get burnout, right? We want to make sure the distribution is spread. So that's why call queues are important to your customer. Now, why are they important to you as a partner, right? Being able to solve problems is going to help you win more deals, right? So if you're winning deals, you're solving your customers' problems. You may be even able to upsell, right, into like a call center environment. If you're solving your customers' problems and they like the service that you're providing them, it helps you keep your customers, right? Makes them a long-time customer, therefore increasing that overall revenue over time for you. And it helps you differentiate your solution from your competition. I hear over and over as I'm talking to partners that they're working, with a customer that has a different offering. And when we're talking about call queues, they'll say, oh, they don't have any because it's extra money. This is a feature that you as a partner don't actually pay anything more for. It's a little more time consuming for you to build it, but it can differentiate you between some of those, larger big box solutions. Like I won't name any names, but you know who I'm talking about. All right. So benefits of call queues, sales, we just talked about that, right? Reducing customers' wait times, improving issue resolution. You can analyze statistics, especially in that call center environment, and we reduce agent burnout. All right, so let's talk about our first topic, round robin, right? So this is a pretty common routing strategy. So round robin will simply direct callers to the available agent that's been idle or inactive the longest. We do this to maximize the agent's performance, right? And maximizing that is a science. So there is, some, calculations involved in it. One factor when we're implementing a round robin is figuring out the order in which each call will be answered, right? So we're going to show you how, right? Erick's not only going to show you how to do round robin, but he's also going to highlight some features in a call queue, some of the options that you may not know about. And in this presentation, we've actually taken screenshots of these because we're going to send this to you as a leave behind. So Erick, I'm going to kick it over to you so that you can show everyone. All right. So there you go. You can have the screen now.
Okay, let me know when you can see my screen.
We can.
Okay, perfect. So first things first, we're going to be addressing round robin. So obviously we need to build the queue to do that. So let's build a queue. So I'm going to call queues. I'm going to add a call queue. And let's just keep it easy and we'll name it linear. Now, extension ranges, we like to stay 5, 6, beg your pardon, 4, 5, 6 hundreds for the extension ranges. So let's make this easy. Let's call it 500. Now you do have the ability to name a department or a site. This would mean that you have to actually go to your users and, for example, Bob, Samantha, and Jill belong to department accounting, site A. We would put that in their profile for each user. And once you do so, you would see a drop down here that would indicate that, so you could choose it. For example, site A is already built. So somebody or one of the users has been labeled as site A. So you could choose the department and site from a drop down, or you could go to the users, build the users out correctly with the department and site, and then go back to the queue and put them in there. So for this example, we're doing round robin. So the phone numbers option. Now, you could assign a number directly to the queue from this field. However, our suggestion is to always do it from the phone numbers tab, which is right behind here. That's where my mouse is moving. We always like to point directly from the DID icon directly to whatever call flow we would like to use at that point. So that's always best practice. Record calls. And mind you, if you notice, there's little modals next to each one of these. Make sure that you hover over them so you get a good oversight of exactly what that setting is doing. So if I set this to yes, it's going to record all calls that are coming into that queue. So obviously, if you want recording, you want to go ahead and set it now. Statistics. This is for the call center environment. If you want to glean that information, all statistics for the queue, and you want to see it from a call center supervisor's overseeing or logging into the portal, you want to turn this on right now so that you have that information being fed to you. Message to agent. Now, this is a customizable message. So more or less, if I have an agent that is in 3 queues, their phone is going to be obviously ringing for any incoming calls to those queues, but he needs to know how to answer that call. So let's say you have accounting, billing, and sales. If a call comes in and you have a message to agent turned on, which by the way, you have to turn on once you build the queue initially, you can say, or they'll get a whisper message, this is a call for sales. So now your agent knows how to answer it appropriately, if that makes sense to you guys.
Does.
Okay, let's move to pre-queue options. Now, what's important here is to know that require agents, specifically, if there are no agents, or if it does not require agents, then obviously the calls will flow in regardless of whether they're logged in or not. If you set this to yes, and there are no agents currently logged in, it will follow the in-queue options if unanswered. Now, this can be set to forward to a voicemail, to forward to the PSTN, or to forward to an alternate queue, or a remote number, such as the PSTN. So that's important to take note because that is one setting in here that is effectively driven to the in-queue options forward if unanswered. Okay.
All right.
Queue audio. Now, this is a super important setting because this must be chosen on the creation of the queue. So they're either going to get ringback or music on hold. Most people will set to music on hold and then later decide, well, gee whiz, I would rather have ringback. The part that's difficult with this is if you didn't choose that on the inception or build of this queue, well, now you build a queue again. Now, it's not difficult. Obviously, we can build a queue in about 20 seconds flat. However, it can be a little bit aggravating. So make sure you choose this accordingly at the build of the queue. Okay. Require intro music on hold. Now, this is a setting that will play an advertisement or music on hold in its entirety before that call is actually dispatched to one of the agents within the queue. So this is helpful in the event you want to itemize certain things about your company. You can play that message before it's dispatched to any of the agents in that queue. Okay. Max expected wait time and max queue length. Now, these are settings, so I can adjust max queue length to, let's say, 14 calls or whatever I want to adjust it to. Max expected wait time, I can adjust that in seconds to whatever I want. Now, what's important to know about this setting is this is an average. So that means if your queue is full and people are still coming into the queue and you reach that max expected wait time, or you reach that max queue length, at that point, it will follow the forward if unanswered rule. So this is the exit strategy if both of these settings have been matched. So again, you can forward to an extension, to a phone number, to an alternate queue, or to somebody designated that you want to take the call afterwards. For example, extension 105. So that's where this setting comes into play. Now,
Cool.
allow callback option. If you set this to yes, then after a certain period of time, after this has been met, it will give you the option for a callback to keep your place in queue. And this is very convenient for people because obviously if they're waiting in queue and it's a higher than normal wait time, a lot of people want to choose that option. And it will give you the option to leave your phone number, and it'll actually state the number that it sees you're calling from. If you want to modify it to something else, you have that option right there. Okay, let's.
Cool. And please note, this is pre-queue options. So these are options for the caller before they're actually put into the queue to be like routed to an agent. Okay.
That is correct.
And I did notice somebody put their hand up to ask a question, but we can't hear you. Please feel free to use the Q&A in the chat and we'll answer any questions. Oh, maybe I think we got one. Let's see, Eric. How do agents get added to the queue? Darren, we're going to answer that for you and give us probably about, 3 minutes. So once we complete this, we're going to go through how to add agents. So give us a minute, and then if you still have questions, we'll get right over there. Thank you.
Yeah, you have to, just in hindsight, so that, you have to create the queue first. Once it's created, then you can add the agents. But I'll show you that here in just a second.
Cool.
Okay, so let's go to the in-queue options. So you have queue ring timeout and agent ring timeout. Now, if these timings have been met and no one has answered that call, it follows the forward if unanswered. Again, you can either force them to stay in queue. You can forward to a destination such as a phone number, extension, an alternate queue, or you can send it to voicemail. So these settings behave and react and use this exit strategy if their settings have been matched to.
So let's use a little scenario here, Eric, for our
Mhm.
guests, just so they can kind of see what's going on.
Sure.
So let's pretend like we have 3 agents in this round robin queue, right?
Okay.
So right now, the timing conditions, right? So queue ring timeout is set to what? What do we got there?
30
30
seconds.
seconds. All right. And our agent ring timeout is set to 15. So
Correct.
if I have 3 agents in my queue right now, and these timing conditions stay exactly the way they are, it could really only ring 2 out of my 3 agents, right?
That is correct. You want
So
to
we got to do
adjust.
a little bit of math. Like when we talked about calculations earlier, if
Mhm.
I'm going to ring each agent for 15 seconds, my overall queue timing conditions have to grow to accommodate all of that, right?
In this instance, if you wanted to follow the exit strategy after it rings all 3 agents, you want to set it to 45 seconds. So
Awesome.
15 seconds is more or less 3 rings. So it's 3 rings, go to the next agent, 3 rings, go to the next agent, 3 rings. At that point, we've matched the queue ring timeout. So it follows the exit strategy is if unanswered. So you can either have them stay in the queue and go through that process again, or at that point, you could say, you know what, forward to a destination. And you can set it to a phone number, extension, voicemail, whatever you need, or you can drive it directly to voicemail. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Awesome. Hey, Eric, we have a quick question before we
Sure.
move on. So Steve's wondering, where does the notification for a callback go? So if you choose the callback option in pre-queue, how does that work out how does the agent like know to call back the customer?
So basically what happens is if you're given the option for a callback, your call or that leg still stays in the queue. So it's consider it an active call ongoing or waiting in the queue. And what happens is let's say you have 3 agents that are busy. So you've chosen the callback option and you have since hung up the phone. Immediately, once an agent becomes available, within that queue, it calls to the agent and it says, hey, this customer was calling you. Here's his phone number. Once it connects to that agent, it then calls out to the customer and it connects the 2 call legs. Does that make sense?
Does that make sense? Is Steve, you good? Did that make sense? I can't see you nodding your head, I promise, but hopefully that did. All right. Cool,
Okay.
cool. I'll let you do your thing.
All right. So log out agents on missed calls. Now, this is an important setting because let's say, for example, you have 5 agents and Bob left work and guess what? He forgot to log out. So now he's part of that circular motion and his phone will ring and waste time. So if it does that one time and it notices that he does not answer, it will log them out. So this is real important for a call center because you get rid of that wasting of time or ringing an agent who is not available or is not there. So now when this agent comes back, he must log in to be part of the queue again. So that's an important setting. A lot of people set that to yes. Enable voicemail. Now, this is a setting that generally speaking, as far as I'm concerned, I steer clear of. So what this says is if the queue ring timeout and agent ring timeout are met, it will drive people to the voicemail. The problem here is this voicemail, and it's not a problem. It's just not how I prefer to do it, but it will send it to the voicemail of that particular call queue. So in this case, this call queue is extension 500 or user 500, I should say. Now you're not getting indication on every agent's phone that, hey, I got a voicemail in queue 500, which means that you have to assign the responsibility to somebody within that queue. Hey, I need you to check queue's voicemail consistently to make sure there's no voicemail in there. So generally what I would suggest is maybe avoid this. Keep the forward if unanswered, send it to a voicemail, and you're going to choose the actual voicemail you're going to send it to. So let's say that I have Susan, who's extension 101, that's in that queue. I would drive those voicemails directly to Susan's voicemail at 101, and now she gets a light indication. So she could simply look at her phone. Oh, I've got a voicemail in the call queue. Let me check it. So that way they can field the calls. They don't miss the calls. Okay, and for this, with regards to the SMS, we're going to avoid that because what we're really talking about and really discussing is the call queue, not SMS texting or messaging, anything like that. So we'll cover this in a later webinar, but for now, we're going to avoid SMS. All right, so I'm going to close that. And
you want to add it and show Darren how to add the agents?
Oh, beg your pardon. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this was our round robin.
Round. Oop. And I'm going to keep it very basic. I'm not going to set up any settings right now, just so that we can get to that point.
There you
go. Okay. So now under call queues, you can see we've built a queue. To the far right, you can see edit agents. So if I wanted to add an agent, I could go to agent phone and just simply choose an agent, set them to online or offline, whatever you want to do. You can adjust their wrap-up time, how many calls they can field. Now, mind you, right now it's set to 1, so that means that 101 can only receive 1 call. A second call will never hit them. I can adjust that to 2 calls or all the way to 6 calls. A lot of people avoid that because they can be difficult to handle all those calls. So at that point, I can simply, I've added 101, I can click Save Agent. And you can see he's greened up, indicating he is online, ready to receive a call. And I click Done. Now, if you look at the queue that I've created, it will show you that there is 1 agent available in there. So it gives you indication of how many agents you have added. Of course, you can add as many as needed, so on and so forth. But that is how you add agents.
Perfect.
Any questions?
No, I think we cleared them all out so far, Eric.
Okay.
All right.
Kick it back over to you, Jaime, and I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. All right. We good on the screen, Eric?
We are. I can see yours now.
All right, great. So our next queue that we're going to talk about is a linear hunt, right? So the way a linear hunt behaves is that, with sequential ringing, an incoming call rings each agent in the group 1 by 1. If one of the lines are busy or it misses the call proceeds to the next agent on the list until all of the agents on that said list have been contacted. So Eric's going to show us how to build this hunt now. So I'm going to kick it back. There you go.
All righty. Okay, and can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, perfect. So again, to build the queue, we're going to go to the call queues. We're going to add a call queue. We'll name this one linear. We'll set it to extension. Let's label it 505. We'll choose linear hunt. Again, remember all of these settings from here, here, to here are going to be identical to what we just did in round robin. Nonetheless, department and site you can choose once you've set them up for each individual user, or whichever users you would choose. Phone number, kind of steer clear of this setting. If you want to adjust a phone number and point it at that queue, do it from the icon, the phone number icon here. That's how we like to route. Again, choose to record calls. Statistics, so you want to grab information about it for the call center. Message to agent, if you have those agents in multiple queues. Again, you have to build the queue first, and then you can come back here and modify this. So the message to agent here would be linear call queue sales, or however, or whatever vernacular you want to use in that circumstance. Okay, pre-queue options, require agents. Remember, if this is set to yes, and there is no agents in that queue, it will follow the in queue option to forward if unanswered. These two settings, max expected wait time, max expected queue length, if they're met, they will follow the forward if unavailable exit strategy.
Perfect.
Queue audio, real important. Remember, choose music on hold or ring back, and do that when you hit this tab. Because once you've created the call queue and all of a sudden you want to modify it or change it to ring back or music on hold, well, you have to delete and rebuild the queue. Again, not a big deal, but so much easier to choose it on the inception of the queue. Require intro music on hold. That is the message or music that has to play in its entirety before the calls are actually dispatched to any agents within that queue. Allow callback option. You can turn this on or off, and it will give them an option to either stay in the queue, receive a call back, and at that point, it'll let you itemize what number you want to call from. It'll indicate the number you're calling from, and it'll say if that's correct, press such and such, or if you would like to change that number, please dial that in now. So it gives you the option. Okay, we already discussed forward if unavailable. That's going to match with these settings. Let's go to in queue options. Again, queue ring timeout and agent ring timeout. Agent ring timeout means the settings that you adjust here indicates how many rings to that agent. Here it's set for 15 seconds. So 3 rings to each agent before going to the next, so on and so forth. If it finally matches 60 seconds with nobody answering it, it will follow the if unanswered rule, which again, you can keep them in the queue. You can forward to a phone number, forward to an alternate queue or extension or voicemail. Log out agent on missed call. Again, very helpful for call center environments. If there's an agent who forgot to log out, this is going to do it. So that individual will be forced to log back in when they return to the queue. But in hindsight, it avoids missing time wasted with rings that are going to an agent's desk who is simply not there. Enable voicemail. Again, this is up to you, but I generally steer clear of this one because this is, if these two settings are met, it will drive them directly to the voicemail of the queue. This queue is extension 505. So that means you have to put someone in charge of checking 505's voicemail constantly. I prefer to keep this on no and set it here. I can forward to a destination and I can choose the voicemail I want it to go to. In this example, let's say 101 is the lead agent in the queue. I've given him or her the responsibility. Please check the voicemail from time to time. But if I drive it to their voicemail, they get the LED indication on their phone. They know they have a voicemail and they have the obligation to check it. Okay, so once I add that, now I have the linear queue here. Now the difference between linear and round robin is really one simple setting. So if I add an agent, let's add 102. You'll notice there's one extra setting here. Right? Order in linear hunt, queue priority for agent. So I can indicate, let's say, for example, I add 101, 102, and 103. I want to make 102 in the linear hunt the first linear hunt order. 103 is 2. 101 is 3, for example. That'll work just fine. That's saying, hey, ring 102 first, 103 second, 101 third. Now, the extra setting, the priority setting, is if you have multiple agents in there. So let's say I have 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106. And I set 101, 102, and 103 in order. Let's say I set 101 to linear hunt 1, 102 to 3, and 103 to 5. Well, they're not following in order. They're 1, 3, and 5 now. And if I set them as priority 2, and then I set the next 3 as priority 1, it means that I'm going to ring that next 3 first. And I hope that's making sense to everyone. So
Do you want to show them?
Yeah, let's
Do you
see
have
if we
enough
can do that.
agents, or maybe we dial it back, just set?
Okay, so unfortunately, I only have 3 live phones. I can't add
That's
3
okay.
more. But if we look at this right now, and I haven't set the priority. Hold on. Okay, so in this circumstance, I have 101, 102, and 103 set as priority 2. Now, let's say that I had 3 more phones in here, 104, 105, 106, and it was set to priority 1. That means when a call comes in, the first 3 phones that it looks at is going to be 104, 105, and 106, because they are priority 1. Once it does that, it will look at the order they're set for. So let's say that this is 104, 105, and 106, and it was priority 1. It will first engage these 3 agents and then follow the order in which you see them or which you've set them for. If none of them answer, then it goes to the priority 2 agents. And it will, again, look at the order that you set them at and then ring them in order. I hope I'm making that clear enough.
It does. I feel like it's very
Okay.
clear. So, but if anyone has any questions on that, feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll clear up whatever you need. Cool. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome. I will kick it back to you, Jaime.
All right.
There you go.
Thank you. All right. So as I said earlier, we do have screenshots for all of the different options and the queues for you. So this is going to be sent out with the recording of the webinar as a little bit of a leave behind. So I'm just going to kind of zoom through the different options, and then we do have some questions. So let's see. All right, Eric, follow me here.
Sure.
If we have a user that has a desk phone, web phone, and mobile app, do we have to add each one of those to the queue, or is there just add the user extension in all devices that are online where it would ring? So that's a great question.
It is. It is.
And we both know the answer to it, but I will let you answer it.
So what's important to remember here is that if you have multiple pieces of hardware attached to one extension, you must add each one a la carte. So if we were just to add, say, extension 101, the root extension, and it rang the Snap Mobile, it rang the 3 other phones they have attached, it rang their mobile application, it would drive people insane. So we do it a la carte. You can add the Snap Mobile, you can add your secondary phone, which is 100 lowercase b, for example. So you're adding it as you see fit to add it, and you're leaving out the ones that you do not want ringing. Now, what's important to know is there are UI configs that we can put in place, which would mean if you added extension 100, it automatically backfills any other piece of hardware they have attached to extension 100. However, it may not be the most common practice because, again, people don't want every device on their desk ringing, or they don't want their remote phone ringing, so on and so forth. So as a default practice, yes, you go in and you add each device as you see fit to add it to that queue.
And now, Thomas, if you have like a really large customer that you've registered mobile app, web phone, and hardware, and they, maybe you have 50 of them and they all need to be added to a queue, the UI config that Erick's referencing, we can give you access to it. It is a special request. So you would submit a customer support ticket, ask that to, for that feature to be enabled, and we would enable it on the domain that you needed it to be enabled on. So if it makes your life easier to add it that way, we can have it enabled for you. It's just not the default.
That's
okay. Cool. And I got a question from Chucky. Where do you set the time for the priority, right? And Erick, I think I think I'm going to say this correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but the time is still set on the agent, right?
That's correct.
So when you're setting it in the call queue, when you're setting the agent timeout, it's going to use that same timing condition no matter what the priority is. So that's where it's set, if that makes sense, right?
That is correct. It's the agent ring timeout.
Yep. So that is when you build the queue. So it's not in the agent option. You're just setting how you want it to flow. You've already set the timing conditions when you've created the queue.
Yes, ma'am.
So Chucky, hopefully that answers that for you. If not, let me know. All right, cool. All right, so let's talk about stacking queues. So this might be controversial. Erick and I discuss this a lot when we're helping partners build. You do have an option for what's called a linear cascade in the PBX, in the call queuing, right? The reason Erick and I don't love linear cascading is because that is groups of agents that ring with different timing conditions. The reason that we like to call stacking queues, the reason we like this is it gives you more control, especially if you're in a high volume, maybe customer that has a lot of turnover. When you're using linear cascade, you like kind of have to go in and reinvent the wheel when you're removing or adding new agents. So the reason Eric and I like to stack is you can actually create queues that go into other queues. So that way, if modifications need to happen, it's less work for you as the person doing the work to accomplish this. So we're going to show you what we mean by stacking queues and what the settings should look like. So Eric, I
Okay.
am going to kick it over to you for a little demo.
Okay, so for this example, let's just use what we have built, linear hunt, round robin. So let's go to the linear hunt first. So stacking queues is really easy. And like Jaime mentioned, it kind of lets you build it and kind of massage it into working in any way that you want. Whereas linear cascade works in specific methods. It's linear cascade, if you think about it, it's kind of doing a sim ring or a ring all to another ring all to another ring all. Doing it this way allows you to modify it. So I've got a linear call queue right now, and I'm going to make it go to a round robin afterwards. That is accomplished by adjusting the forward if unavailable. If you want to do it there, I can make it ring to this next queue. Call queue 500. So now if it matches the parameters to do the forward if unavailable, this call will start ringing to the round robin queue in the background here that I'm pointing at. So it allows you to stack the queue, and lo and behold, we have two methods of doing that. You can also do it from the in queue options. If it is unanswered, if it matches the same statistics or the timing settings here, you can forward to another destination. I can also send it to that round robin queue. So that's the idea behind stacking queues. It allows you to kind of, if you would, move from one queue style to another queue style, and you can kind of cookie cutter how you place your call flow, which is a lot more intuitive than when I think of linear cascade, if you will. Hope that makes sense.
And if it doesn't, please ask questions, or you can also follow up with myself or submit a support ticket. We can help you answer those questions. Okay, I'm going to grab it back.
Okay.
And here we go. So remote agents, right? Remote agents can also be a little tricky, right? And we just want to make sure you as our partners are prepared when you're adding a remote agent. And when I say remote agent, basically I'm talking mostly about like if I'm adding a outside number like a cell phone, you want somebody's cell phone number to be in a queue. Erick's going to show you how to properly do that. And then also some best practices for the settings, because when we're doing this, we don't, the outcome of what the remote agent, when they pick up their phone, what they see is sometimes different than what we expect or think is going to happen. So Erick's going to show you the proper way to not only add it, but maybe some requests that you have to make for settings modifications. So Erick, I'm going to send it back to you, and let's get us the remote agent in our queue.
Okie dokie. All right, so let me know when you can see my screen.
You're good.
Okay, so again, we're in the call queue settings. And doesn't matter which queue we pick. Let's pick this queue. I am going to edit agents. I'm going to add an agent, but this time I'm going to add a cell phone. I'm going to add my cell phone. For example, and I save agent. Now, mind you, I can always set this for request confirmation. That means when it calls to my cell phone as a remote agent, it will actually ask me to press 1 to accept the call. That is my light bulb that, oh, this is a call coming from my office. So you can either turn that on or off. But if I save
Oh,
the agent.
and Eric, before you leave there, go back
Sure.
into add agent, because one thing I just want you to show them, because a lot of people do get confused about this. Pop my cell phone number in there. Put in 440-336.
440-336.
5877.
Okay.
Okay. So see like where we're at right here. If you just hit enter, it's not going to add it. You actually have to hover on the number that appeared below and it'll turn blue and you select it there. Because I actually get a ton of calls like, Jaime, I'm trying to add these remote agents and I can't get them in the queue. You actually have to, the little box that appears below, when you hover over it, it turns that blue color and then you enter it right there.
That is correct. Thanks for mentioning that, because that is something that happens quite often. So you have to, once you plug in the number, you have to go down to the number indicated here, right underneath it. Click that and click Save Agent. If I was just to click Done, it will not do anything. You have to click Save Agent. And then you'll notice the number comes up right here. So the important part to remember here is this works in several ways. So I've now added a remote agent. You can add a remote agent to any queue with the same method. However, when, for example, I call in from my cell phone to this queue, and it then calls Jaime's cell phone, kind of the de facto reaction would be, I need to see, or it will send the call ID from the hosted PBX. So it will send the number that is actually pointed at this queue rather than the original caller's number, which would be my cell phone. So if you need to modify that and you want to see the original caller's ID that's making the call passed all the way to Jaime's cell phone, then a quick ticket with us, we can adjust that with a setting on the back end, and we can pass the original caller ID. Now, the reason why that is set that way is because a lot of people want it in two different manners. Some people want to see the call ID coming from the hosted PBX so that they know how to answer it on the other end. Let's say, for example, this is ABC widgets. So if it passes the number from this linear call queue, and I see that on my cell phone, I know to answer, hello, thanks for calling ABC widgets. However, if I sent the original caller's ID, which would be my cell phone, I might by accident answer the phone and say, hey, what's going on, man? You know, not answering it correctly, unless you turn on that answer confirmation rule. That may give you some insight to, hey, this is a business call. So depending on who you are or what your situation is, some people like it that way and some people do not. So it's important, once you have your remote agents in place, to make that decision and then indicate to us, and we can set it up and adjust it to how you like it or what works best for you.
Perfect. Yeah,
All
and
right.
that's a simple support ticket, gang. So if you build this and you test it and it's not really behaving the way you thought it would, or it's not what you want, usually these items can be modified in the back end by our support team. Please just feel free to put it in a quick ticket, give us all the info, and those modifications can be made for you. So great.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm going to grab it back, sir.
Okay.
There we go. So Q&A, we did answer some live questions, which is awesome. I always love getting questions and getting them answered right while we're doing it. That's probably my favorite thing. If we do have a little bit of time for some more questions, so I'll give you guys a moment to put those in the chat. If we don't have any, then you'll get some, time in your life back. But Erick and I do appreciate you joining today. Just so you know, we're looking to do more of these webinars with our team members from support. So if you have any ideas or suggestions on what our next webinar should be, feel free to let me know. I'm Jaime at RingLogix.com. My name is spelled funny, Jaime. You can always email me. I'll use some of our extra time too to do a little public service announcement. Our teams have been working really, really hard on the back end to create our partners a learning management system, an LMS. We call it RingLogix University. So if you have new employees that have joined you that would benefit from being added, if you just want to check it out as a partner, please submit a ticket with our success team and just say, hey, I'd like to be added to the RingLogix University. And we will create you a username and password. It'll send you an email letting you log in and you can go check it out. But if you'd like to participate, give us some feedback. Just so you know, it is mainly basic trainings right now. We're going to get into more advanced, but we have all the basic PBX stuff. I'm also going to create some trainings regarding what Erick and I went over with you today in queues. So we'll have one on round robin. We'll have one on hunt, stacking queues, and remote agents. But please let me know if you'd like to be a part of that. We'd love to have you test it for us and give us feedback. So I'm not really seeing any questions come through though. So I think we'll go ahead and give everyone some time back. But thank you once again for joining us today. It is appreciated. And let us know if there's more content that would benefit you as a partner.
Thank
All
you
right.
all.